So I've been playing quite a bit of Monopoly with my family recently, and I decided to watch a couple of videos to see what the internet thinks the best Monopoly strategy is. I'm here to tell you that there's one key idea that every single guide is missing that will vastly increase your chances of winning. You see, every optimal strategy relies on statistics. Orange properties has the best, likely rolls and board coverage. But if you think about it, Monopoly isn't a math game, but it's actually a political one. Yeah, statistics are somewhat important, but they rely on one thing: rational players. Your aunt doesn't care about the most probable rolls. Your cousin won't care about opportunity costs. Someone will always be emotionally attached to Boardwalk and Park Place. Statistics won't win you trades, but knowing who you're playing with will. It can only tell you what the most likely roll is or what properties are better. What it can't do is guarantee beneficial trades giving you the best chance to win. Now, I'll give you the real sauce. There are two types of players in Monopoly: the sharks and the passive players. Passive players hate hastily trading and will always want what's quote unquote fair to them. Sharks will always be proactive in making trades and will always try to move the game in a forward direction. The number one key of winning the game is managing your relationships and your trades effectively. This sounds meaningless, but it's the only way that passive players will ever trade with you, and the only way that sharks will ever rely on you. Throughout the whole game, the highest priority you should have is gaining leverage. Whether there's still properties left up for sale or there are hotels being built, it's the most important thing. Everyone else in the game should rely on you in some shape or form. Here's where this mindset actually turns into wins. Once you understand that leverage matters more than property count, you stop waiting for good trades and start actually doing something in the game. People don't make trades because the math says they should. They make trades when they're cornered, dependent, or impatient. Your job is to gently push them into those positions. Forcing trades doesn't mean bullying or being obvious. It means shaping the board so that inaction becomes worse than action. You do this by selectively helping certain players, stalling others, and controlling tempo. If someone needs one property to complete a set and you're the only one that can help them, that's leverage. If someone is bleeding cash and you're the only person willing to offer liquidity, that's leverage. If two players are racing for dominance and you're the swing vote in trades, that's leverage. You don't ask, is this trade good for me right now? You ask, does this make someone else need me more? That's also why some of the best trades you'll ever make look bad on paper. Sometimes you give up a strong property. Sometimes you overpay. Sometimes you take cash instead of value. In isolation, these moves look like mistakes. But Monopoly isn't played on isolation. A trade that weakens you slightly but destabilizes someone else, creates dependency, or blocks a monopoly can be worth far more than its immediate value. You're investing in future control. Making a seemingly negative trade also builds trust. Passive players remember who helped them. Sharks remember who enabled their momentum. Later, when you actually need them, they're far more likely to come to you first. And that's the real power position in Monopoly. Not asking for trades, but being the person everyone else feels they need to trade with. Another key idea is patience. You don't rush to finish your own sets if doing so makes you a target too early. Often, the first person to create a monopoly ends up being the first one out. You let other players build just enough to scare the table. You let tension rise. You let people feel pressure. The more uncomfortable the table gets, the worse decisions people make. When fear enters the game, rationality leaves, and that's when leverage pays off. Let me give you an example. If you start off the game and eventually someone has these light blue monopoly and another person has these not the best monopoly, but still a monopoly nonetheless. This is actually a situation that I found myself in where I only had a few properties and I was trying to build on contesting these. I actually gave away this orange monopoly to my brother. Um, and even though every guide will tell you never do that because this is the quote unquote strongest monopoly, in the short run, that was maybe a bad decision and it didn't even give me a monopoly. It actually helped me much later to actually come much closer to winning that than my brother ever could. What I actually ended up doing is doing another trade with my sister who owned these light blue monopolies, and she had these two, and I had St. Charles, the last piece of the puzzle. And for her to become a real threat on the board, to have this whole corner, she really wanted this piece. What I traded my brother for this light blue, for this orange, is he gave me this St. Charles place, and he also gave me one red. After that, I traded my sister 1,000. She gave me $1,000, and I gave her St. Charles, and then she gave me one more red. At this point, I had two red and two green. That's not even Monopoly. I made two trades, Nothing's come out of it. I have no money, and I just created two more monopolies on the board. But I made a trade with a third person. One more person had this green monopoly and this red property. What ended up happening is I proposed a fair trade of, oh, I will give you the green monopoly if you give me the red monopoly. And I actually gave her a decision. Do you want the red or the green? And I was able to get money from this as well. And I ended up being able to build four houses on each one of these properties. Now, that's not even that good of a decision and or not that good of an outcome because other people on the board had hotels built already. But at the end of the day, this is what gave me the best chance of winning. And you actually have to look at the board and see what angles can I look at to actually win the game. Sometimes you may not have the best properties. You may not always make the cleanest trades, but if everyone at the table depends on you in some way, the game bends in your favor. Monopoly rewards the player who controls outcomes, not probabilities. And once you start forcing trades instead of waiting for them, the dice stop mattering nearly as much as you think.